So like I said, our boy Keiichi's got a plan. Let's see how this all plans out. Let's see if we can get him to the fiesta. What do you say? Who's ready for a fiesta? All right. Born ready. All right, June. Yep, all right. I knew June was ready. June's been with me this whole time. All right, here we go. We are in. Let's go. The dawn of a new day. This is the first time I had ever woke with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber. "My, Keiichi, you're up early. Is there some sort of school event?" "Not really." Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat. "You're leaving already? What about lunch? If you don't wait a bit, I can't make it." If I waited for her to make lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Rena or Mion on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to school alone. "I'll be fine for today." "Then what will you do for lunch?" "I'll slip out and buy some bread or something at the store." "Really? Then here's some lunch money. Be sure to bring me back the receipt." I took the 1,000-yen bill from Mom and slipped it into my pocket. "It's pretty early. Is Rena-chan up this early as well?" "No, just me." "Did you tell Rena-chan you're leaving early?" I have no reason to tell her every little detail now, do I? Finding it difficult answering the onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed face. "Tell Rena that I went ahead when she comes." "Hey, Keiichi, wait!" It's not that I didn't trust my parents, I just couldn't rely on them. They couldn't help me. I could only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. It's another beautiful day. It's like 6 in the morning. Can you imagine going to school at 6 in the morning? That is a little much for me. My mom's annoying voice was cut off by a slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. Up until now, I had always walked down the same path at the same time each day. So I always met with the same people at the same places, but today was different. I didn't meet the people I would normally, and nobody was at the places where I would have normally met them. Of course, Rena wasn't in the spot where we usually met, and there wasn't anyone at the spot where we would have met up with Mion. The length of the trees' shadows, the morning air, the brightness of the sun, it was completely different from the type of morning that I was used to. You had to catch the school bus at 6:30? Damn. Like, in grade school, my dad just drove me, so, we would just go at, 7:30, 7:40 or something, and when I was in high school, we lived right across from it, so I would literally just head out at, 7:50, 7:55. Without a doubt, it felt strange. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion Hinamizawa had set up for me before it had enough time to prepare for all the props needed to deceive me. "My, Keiichi-kun, you're so early today. Is everyone meeting early this morning?" The person who called out to me was someone we always passed by as we were taking a walk on the edge of the fields. Their name was, I forgot. Of course, this wasn't a spot where we usually passed by each other. I woke up early today, so I thought it'd be a good change of pace. That's all. I threw out a random excuse. "What about Rena-chan and Mion-chan? Are you by yourself today?" "Well, yeah." I was being asked the same type of questions my mom was asking, so I answered them in the same uninteresting, vague manner. It wasn't funny being asked where Rena was each time I passed by someone, but maybe it was to be expected. It was because for so long we were always together so amicably. Even I felt that if I let my guard down, we could still be friends. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? Don't go soft, everybody. Beep, 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 beep. A car horn blared from out of nowhere. Even though I was walking, lost in thought, the horn was way too close. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's hulking chassis was almost on top of me. I'd seen plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder and the van was swerving in my direction to avoid them. That blissfully ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. The large mass was hurtling right at me. Was it going to hit me? The inside of my head instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. Ouch, don't get liquid in your brain. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself had frozen. In the silence of that frozen moment, I compared the van so close that I had no way to dodge it, and my body, the upper half twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There's no way I could dive out of the way in my current position. If I lost focus now, this moment would unpause and I would probably be plowed over, caught in a silly pose. You don't want to get run over and get in a silly pose. You want to get into a cool pose if you're going to get run over. That's kind of the rule of being run over, I think. Bend my upper body over towards the paddy by the side of the road. If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by the side view mirror. As soon as the thought had crossed my mind, a temporal stasis was shattered by the deafening sound of the van. Zoom. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off through the air like a top, locked in my contorted position. Ouch. Kersplash. Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy paddy by the side of the road. My entire body was soiled and drenched. But the choice I had made in that instant was unmistakably for the best. I was covered in mud, but when the alternative was being hit by a car, it was the closest I could come to being unscathed. Rising out from the paddy, I had enough in me to glare over at the stopped van and yell profanities at the driver. You asshole! I'm not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off suddenly. Wait, damn it! Is this what they call a hit and run, wasn't it? I couldn't help but continue yelling profanities. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than any physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy paddy and made my way back onto the road. This is a crime, goddammit! Shit, I'll track you down and sue you! If I go looking for a van, I'm sure I can find it in this little village. The path I was on had rice paddies to either side, and it had become so narrow that one could barely fit through. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone pass by pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side of the road than the other car when it passed me. Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to suppress the dark cloud roiling up from within me. He would not be very much better in an isekai world, I don't think. Not right now. Not in this boy's current state of mind. This wasn't just a hit and run. The car just now was trying to run me over, wasn't it? Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. That's right. As soon as I'd parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had that feeling the whole time. If it had wanted to pass me, then it had no shortage of chances. Normally, I normally would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner, but I was lost in thought, and now I was kicking myself for not realizing it was there sooner. And then, when the path became narrow and there was no one else in sight, he floored it. If I had hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, and the realization of just how terrifying the preceding events were sunk in, there was no doubt about it. This van was intentionally trying to hit me. A cold viscous sweat seeped from my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. I struggled to avoid falling into a panic. There was still a possibility that that was really an accident. Calm down, Keiichi. But also, don't be too naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. Don't give them any openings. If the enemy was really out to kill me, the next time they would use a more reliable method. If that time came and I was acting like I was now, getting covered in mud was the price I had paid for my own naivete. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. I guess this was what you would call a silver lining. Or a brown lining, seeing as you got mud all up your butt and back. It's probably a little more better way of looking at it. But hey, we got kitchen walls at home that we can use to get that off with. No biggie. I began walking again, this time cautiously. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I had suspected only Rena and the others up until now. No, it was because I had suspected them that I had believed that there were no other enemies. Oishi-san had said so, didn't he? There was a possibility of a village conspiracy. Was I really mired so deeply in this situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest just to hole myself up in my house? But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. This was just too horrifying of a thought. Garbage child put the van in cruise control and stood on the driver's seat. I wouldn't put it past her. That's what garbage children do. I recall the tales Oishi-san told me of when Hinamizawa was still called Onikakushi, a frightening place of an entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them and eating them alive. One must not interfere with the demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemy were numerous. The whole village. The villagers with their unwavering faith in the curse who would do nothing to help me. The strong sudden flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. When I suspected it was the work of a man, I could catch a glimpse of Oyashiro-sama's curse. And when I suspected it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. What was this? What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No, what I really, truly wanted to know was, how did I end up with the proverbial bullseye painted on my back? Eventually, an answer in the form I could understand will appear. I don't care when that will happen, because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight and will keep me alive. There you go, Keiichi. You got this. He's got this all sorted. Everything's going A-okay. It sounds like everything's going to plan. You almost get run over going to school, but that happens to literally everybody. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before anyone else arrived at school. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber, nothing that I could bring back into the classroom easily. Then I had an epiphany. I should search inside the classroom. What if something was in the classroom to begin with, and then there wouldn't be a problem? I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat, but it couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gym storage shed was open, I needed to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivete whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked in the school, but such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. This was an incredibly frightening thought, but I believe that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyways, I will survive. So long as I lived, then I will definitely be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. Definitely. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. That much was to be expected. There was no way there would be anything that could be a weapon in the classroom. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my open chair around. My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to be used for personal storage. The locker that Neon used to store her pile of games was among them. There was one for each person in the class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. Oh yeah, there was supposed to still be a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. I should go change later. But first, I needed a weapon. If one of my classmates came, it would be hard to rummage through all the lockers. I swiftly began opening the lockers one by one. They were mostly just filled with things like gym clothes, personal items, and umbrellas. An umbrella. If I couldn't find anything better, then this would have to be my weapon. I was about to give up finding anything decent when I opened a locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was without a doubt a metal bat. It was well worn and pretty beaten up, but there was no doubt it was usable. In that locker that reeked of mold, there also hung a baseball uniform. It was probably the locker of a student in a peewee league or something like that. If that was the case, then he'd probably ask for it back. At that time, I could hear the voices of the children scuttling their way noisily in from the hallway. Almost amongst them, I could make out was Rika-chan and Satoko. Yo, hey, how's it going, good child? And garbage child, of course. You would greet me this very morning with that face. This is what I have to see first thing in the morning when I make it to school. Garbage child smirking at me. My, you're quite early this morning, Keiichi-san. I nonchalantly hid the bat I was holding behind my back. What is with your outfit? You're covered in mud. Yeah, I had a little incident. I'm gonna go change now, so cut me some slack. With that said, I began taking off my clothes. Satoko began to blush, just as I expected her to. Changing in front of a lady? Have you no tact at all? I would think that a lady staring at someone who is changing would be the one lacking tact. There's no changing room for the boys, so just deal with it. As Satoko feigned disgust, she went into the hall, still blushing. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change. If Rika-chan is a lady as well, then I don't think it would be appropriate for you to be watching. I'm not a lady, so it's fine. She deliberately pouted and looked at me with upturned eyes. Then, starting now, you're a lady. If I'm a lady, then I suppose I must. Rika-chan appeared to be satisfied with being considered a lady, made her way to join Satoko in the hallway. Rika is precious. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me. This is probably fine. Are you going to start playing baseball? It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat. Yeah, just, I was feeling a bit out of shape, so I thought I'd just try practicing my swing. I think it's wonderful that you're taking care of your health. She was talking like an old lady despite her appearance. After saying that, Rika-chan started to leave again, but stopped and looked back at me once more. Please don't lose that bat. It seems she already knew I took it out of someone's locker. There was no name on the locker door. I didn't know whose bat it was, but I was borrowing it until they complained. It wouldn't be for long, just until the gym storage shed was opened. After quickly changing into the tracksuit, I checked the time. I still had plenty of time before class began because I came so early. I took the bat in one hand and went out at the schoolyard. There was, of course, to practice my swing. I needed to make it known that I always have a bat on me so I could practice my swing. At some point, the sunlight had become even stronger. Disregarding my classmates as they made their way to the school, I took my position at the shadow of the school building. I wasn't the academic type, and I wasn't much of an athlete either. I might get muscle pain if I just suddenly started swinging. I should at least start out with some warm-ups. I doubt anyone would think I was doing something out of the ordinary, which was the exact opposite of my actual mental state. I gripped the bat and swung lightly. The bat was by no means light. The weight would make it a reliable weapon when I needed it to be. Of course, I could only pray that the moment I needed to use this as a weapon would never come. Just carrying it around could deter attacks against me. At least, that's what I hoped. Huh? Kei-chan? What are you doing? Being bombarded with such a hysterical voice, I jumped. Whoa, Keiichi-kun, are you on the baseball team? The baseball team? It was Rena and Mion. I was surprised to hear you went off ahead. What are you doing, Kei-chan? Can't you tell by looking? I'm practicing my swing for the championship. You can't say it's part of my You can say it's part of my diet if you want. This scene in the anime is really good. Any scene where there's like a direct confrontation and they're like trying to like gauge somebody, or anytime any of these girls is trying to like pry into what he's doing, you as the viewer feel like you're being called out. And there's one that does it way late in the series. Rena does it with Keiichi. It's one of my favorite scenes. Thank you for the host, Dolls, with 13 viewers. Welcome everybody from Dolls Chat. We're reading I heard it's not cool to be a reader, so I added some anime to my reading. So that laugh is a chopped up Mr. Belding laugh from Saved by the Bell. I did that for a friend that wanted a really glitchy Mr. Belding laugh for some reason. So I just kind of chopped and screwed it for some reason, and that's what we ended up with for the host alert. I am twisted, Dolls. I am twisted. But welcome, everybody, from Dolls Chat. Dolls, I hope Final Fantasy VII Remake was treating you well. We are reading Higurashi When They Cry. This is Chapter 1, Onikakushi. We are going to be working on finishing the finale of this part of the story tonight. It's very explosive. It's also very violent. This is a story with violence, so if that is a thing that you're not super comfortable with, I understand if you don't want to stick around. Yes, my sub alert is Revan saying "Wowee." Thank you for gifting Dolls the sub to my channel. Appreciate it, Tengu Gemini. But yeah, we're just look, times are tough right now, and Higurashi is one of my favorite stories ever. So, and I haven't revisited it in a long time, so I'm kind of doing this to share the story with friends and hang out with people who do know the story. It's kind of just, it's good for my mental stability right now. With a world that's falling apart, I feel like, yeah, you gotta hold those things that you really enjoy even a little bit closer. So, you got a couple of game overs because you were too obsessed with accessing. Yeah, I had a lot of game overs towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game gets pretty hard, not gonna lie. You're gonna finish it tomorrow? Yeah, I will definitely be dropping in. I will definitely be there for the finale because I got nothing to do tomorrow. Alright, Dolls, you take it easy. Thanks again for the host. Much appreciated. I hope you have yourself a nice evening, and I will see you tomorrow for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to see what you think about where that goes. It's going to be fun. And thank you. We are going to definitely enjoy Murder Girls. Alright. So, Keiichi is being confronted because he is swinging a bat. And these girls don't like that he's swinging a ball bat. They're like, what are you doing, dude? Diet. Kei-chan, are you really that fat? Bet you didn't know, I actually have a beer belly. It's plump and it jiggles. That's the worst thing you tell. Don't tell Rena that. She's gonna love it. Plump and jiggles. Rena, you don't have to imagine something weird like that. To disrupt Rena from imagining something that vulgar, I ruffled her hair messily. See, he keeps going back to rubbing her head. It's very clear that he likes her a lot. Even the fact that, like, he's very in a very weird mental place right now, giving Rena head pats still takes priority. Plump Keiichi. Oh my god. From all those buns he definitely snacked on. Well then, hope you make it to regionals at least. This old man will cheer you on. Regionally speaking, it seems like Oshima High is pretty strong. They say their southpaw, Kameda-kun, is amazing. Good luck. It seems they've already taken me for a baseball nut, but oh well. Well, if I really did make it to the championship, that would be a cinch. After all, I'd be a pitcher and the catcher. I pitch the ball and then run past the ball I just threw and change over to being the catcher in the burst of a super incredible explosive speed. I laughed dryly at the ludicrous image. Coming back to my senses, I smashed the bat against the ground. Damn it! What am I laughing at? I pounded the ground over and over. With each impact, the reverberation traveling through the bat and stung my hands. If they smile at me like that, I'll... Don't allow anyone close to me. Don't trust anyone. No matter how many times I tell myself that, if they made me smile like that, I'll... Come on, he's weak to cute girls. Who among us is not weak to cute girls? Exactly. Only psychological violence so far. I already knew quite well that there were demons dwelling in my smiling friends, but I just couldn't believe it. Did any of the split personality really exist? Like how Rena confessed to the doctor, were they simply being possessed by Oyashiro-sama? In other words, did a supernatural being like Oyashiro-sama really exist, and was it possessing everyone to try and kill me? Yeah, that would be wonderful. If only everybody was actually my friends all along and everything was all just Oyashiro-sama's fault. You damned fool, Keiichi Maebara, come on now. I yelled out, drawing out the power from the pit of my stomach, and raised the bat violently in the air. Stop being so soft! As I screamed with all my might, I beat the metal bat into the ground over and over. With every impact, my weakness was being beaten down. Smash! Forget! Smash! Don't be soft! Smash! Know your enemy! Smash! Final destination! Like hell, I'd let them kill me. Keiichi's fine. He's just playing with a ball bat. Everybody plays with ball bats and hits the ground and curses their own softness. Come on, Tengu. Let's be real here. Everybody's done this. He has been through some stuff in the last few days. Yeah, he definitely has. His friends may or may not have put a sewing needle in the food they brought him last night. He might be a little on edge, just to put it out there. Like hell, I'd let them kill me. My shoulders heaving up and down from my ragged breathing, I heard the first bell ring as I calmed down. I grasped a sudden realization that was the final bell. As I felt all tension drained from me, I let out a deep breath. My mind was in a muddled state. For so much of the entire day, I didn't feel like I was awake, but it didn't feel like I was asleep either. I couldn't say it felt especially comfortable, but I felt a kind of relief from the sanctity of the school and part of my daily life had yet to be violated. How long would I have to keep living like this? I could only grit my teeth and bear with it as a living hell slowly gnawed away at me. Keiichi-kun, come on! It's club time! Club time! The sound of Rina's voice brought me back to my senses. Come on, Kei-chan, stop spacing out! Bring your desk! Your desk! Everyone was moving their desks together as usual. That's right, it was happy fun club time. But I had no intention of taking part. I haphazardly stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag as I prepared to go home. It was a weak-handed gesture to avoid having to actually say, I'll be going home now. What's this, Kei-chan? You're planning on going home right away again? Mion sounded quite disappointed. I'm just not in the mood. Could you just let me be for a while? The tone of the words that spilled out of my mouth matched Mion's disapproving glare. I felt like the air in the room had dried out. Satoko looked like she was about to say something, but perhaps dissuaded by the mood, she swallowed her words and stayed silent. Nobody said a thing. I took that to mean I could leave if I wanted. But the collective gaze of the four of them, like tiny pins used to mount an insect in a display, held me in place. Rina was the one who cut through the heavy mood. Keiichi-kun, you didn't like playing with girls, I guess. She said it in such a melancholic tone that it sent a wave of pain racing through my heart. If this pain was going to kill me, I wanted it to be the soft part of me that could still feel pain. I tore at my chest, violently tearing out the pins that held me in place. That's not it at all. I'd only be hurting myself by saying anything more, so I swallowed my words. Cutting things off there, I turned away and exited the classroom. They didn't speak a word to me as I left. Dang. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Yo, soggy bat sweat. Yo, let's hear it in chat for soggy bat sweat. Realizing that, I wiped down my sleeve. If something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. Since this morning, I'd become especially sensitive to the presence of cars. Even while walking, my ears pricked up, and I sought out threatening sounds or presences that could be closing in. And that was why I could hear it. Without a doubt, there were footsteps. Those footsteps had matched perfectly with mine for a while now. From what I could sense, it was just one person. But I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me in the car? Did they intend to follow me like that car this morning until we were in a good location to assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path crowded with trees responded in silence as if there was nobody there to begin with. But I wouldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following me. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped as well. Meaning the person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was, without question, proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waiting for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in the dissonant chorus, trying to throw my focus into disarray. Had 5 minutes passed, or had I been like this for a whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed that I would be the first to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of the tree with bated breath. Then, I'd make the first move. What are Higurashi? They are cicadas. They're those things that you can hear chirping. It's kind of like this game's full title is Higurashi no Naku Koroni, which is basically when the evening cicadas cry, when the cicadas cry, when they cry. There's a lot of translations for it, but I think the most commonly held one is when they cry, since it's actually written in English on the Japanese title screen under the logo. So, summer's evening. Then I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised it above my shoulder and ready to swing it at any time. Hey! I know you're there! With all of my might, I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees, but the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. I know already! I know you're there! I screamed out angrily at them, but even still, they didn't move at all. Then I'll go over there myself. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree's shadow, I saw a human figure there. The figure was curled up like a small animal. Aww. Rena. When she realized I had found her, her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but wasn't going to speak a word. Did you have some business with me? I wouldn't accept that silence and screamed a question at her. Not really. It's just, Rena was in a panic with tears welling up in her eyes, but it was obvious that she had been following me. What about the club? Since you're not, I'm not. That shouldn't matter. Don't mind me and just play. But I'm just worried about you. Thinking about how I had been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behavior could have been perceived as strange. So Rena was concerned. At a quick glance, that's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down that easily. Even if that was really the case, she still wouldn't have to do something like try to tail me. She would have called out to me when I was leaving and gone outright with me. But Rena didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. On top of that, she matched the sound of her footsteps and deviously tried to hide her presence from me. Then, after she realized I'd noticed she was there, she held her breath as she tried hiding from me. She wore a timid expression that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt, she was tailing me. Stop following me. How? Still glaring at Rena, I continued walking onwards. After I walked a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. I told you not to follow me! But my house is in the same direction. Then walk ahead of me. I'll start walking once I can't see you anymore. I moved out of the way and waved my bat violently to urge her forward. I'd like to go home together with you. Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out the words in a voice that she knew would cut into my heart. That agitated me to no end. I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. Now you're just blurting out random lies. I'm sorry. It seemed that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. Even without me saying anything, Rena had understood that what I was feeling inside. If you get it, then go. I swung the bat, urging her again to walk. Rena looked back and forth between me and the bat and started walking hesitantly, then stopped again. Go on! Hurry! I'm going. So please stop with the bat. It's scary. Rena guarded herself while pointing at me holding the bat. She may have realized that I wasn't planning on using this bat for baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her. Go. There's no problem now, is there? There was nothing else that she could protest. She passed by me timidly as to not set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely after having barely moved at all. Hey, don't stop! Then a powerful gust blew past us, barraging my face with dust. The dust got into my eyes and clouded my vision. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung blindly with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. But Rena didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me? No, she hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so too did the silence. At that moment, her voice inside of me immediately warned me of impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed. Without me realizing it, the air around me had suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Rena and I were locked in this place. Rena didn't move an inch. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. When they be crying. Rena was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I had just witnessed her shift from Rena into that other person who looks like Rena, but the voice was the one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing that pitiful voice. Well, excuse me, but, can I ask you something? Too shy to even turn around, Rena squeezed her voice out desperately as she trembled. What? Well, why do you have a bat, I wonder? The question Rena asked was by no means unexpected. I carry whatever I want, but you didn't have one up until today. Why so suddenly? It's alright if I decide to do something suddenly, isn't it? Is it strange that I have a bat? Because, Keiichi, you're not the kind of person to play baseball. It's weird. I could tell the kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her. I just suddenly got the urge to play baseball. Is that so weird? It is weird. She answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly. I just suddenly wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to practice my swing, so I'm carrying around a bat. What's strange about that? Strange. Weird. Definitely. Why you two? Your ramblings are annoying me. Is it that strange for me to have an interest in sports? I tried to sound a bit more threatening at the end of the conversation. Until my suspicions about Rena were cleared, I had no obligation to answer her questions. I'm sorry. Don't get so angry. Rena still didn't turn around and spat out words of apology one after the next. Just one last thing. Tell me one last thing. I don't feel like talking anymore. Hurry up and go. I yelled loudly at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Rena asked her final question. Why is even your bat the same? What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you saying? I mean, why is even the bat the same? I don't understand what you mean at all. Say it clearly. Even still, Rena didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed. I mean, why is even the bat the same as Satoshi-kun's? Satoshi being... Huh? Upon hearing the name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a brief moment. By Satoshi, did she mean the student who transferred out last year? No, that couldn't be. Rena had tried to cover it up by saying he transferred, but Oishi-san told me quite clearly that he was missing. He was the student who sat in my seat up until last year. He was believed to have been demoned away by Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed that night by the night of the Watanagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that, he suddenly vanished and is now missing. That Satoshi and I were... What? My gaze fell on the bat in my hands. Could it be? Satoshi Hojo. It was a bit difficult to see, but that was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. I see, so this was Satoshi's bat. Oh. This was Satoshi's bat. Since nobody's using it, I borrowed it. That's not a problem, is it? That's not it. The way Rena said that made it seem like the bat was something that should never be touched. Like it was some sort of offering at a shrine or a memento to the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed and unable to respond. Rena continued speaking without waiting for a reply. Why is it that you're doing the exact same thing Satoshi-kun did when it happened to him? Rena was talking about more than just the bat belonging to Satoshi. It was the same with Satoshi-kun. He joined a baseball team, but he didn't really like baseball. What does that have to do with me? Satoshi-kun also suddenly started walking around with a bat one day. He joined a team, but he wasn't the type to play sports. What about it? I closed my mouth before I could say that one out loud. Listen carefully, Keiichi. Rena is trying to tell us something important. Satoshi-kun also one day came to school all by himself all of a sudden, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly started practicing his swing, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, he suddenly began carrying the bat around with him, just like Keiichi-kun. Then one day, suddenly what? Rena had swallowed her words. Rena's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then that I could finally digest the content of the entire conversation. She was saying my chain of actions was exactly the same as Satoshi's. What was the meaning of this? Up until now, I had forgotten about Satoshi. I had never paid much attention to him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he had done. My actions today should have been my own creation, after all the planning I had done, but they had been the exact same as Satoshi's? Then more importantly, if both Satoshi and I acted the same, then there was a really good possibility of what happened after would be the same. Rena, that day, what happened to Satoshi? Rena knew. She knew what had become of Satoshi. No, forget about what happened to a guy in the past. Rena knew what was going to happen to me. Answer me, Rena. Satoshi, what happened to him? With that, I grabbed Rena's shoulder violently and forcibly turned her around to face me. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body. I told you, Keiichi-kun. It was the person that I didn't know. At least it definitely wasn't the Rena Ryugu that I had been talking to up until now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion that it had had before. The amount of regret I felt for turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. The gaze that pierced like a cold needle, the smile on her face that invoked an image of having been carved out by a knife. Chills went down my spine. My mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Rena's eyes pierced through mine, leaving me unable to look away. As if to remind me that the fear from that time before, Rena brought her face close to mine, so close that I could feel her breath. Her face had filled my entire field of vision. Then her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper, like the curve of a crescent moon. She grinned. I told you, Keiichi-kun. After a short pause, Rena repeated the same words again. Satoshi-kun, you see, transferred out. Transferred, meaning what? What Rena meant must have been some new definition of transfer that I was previously not aware of. My throat and lips dried up. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my saliva. It would seem that Rena saw that as a nod. She pulled her gaze back and spryly stepped back 2 or 3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell to my knees pathetically. Rena and me on my knees underneath her emotionless smile. That had to be a very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in a pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. But I could neither stand nor escape with her gaze. Sorry, having a stroke on stream again. But I could neither stand nor escape with her gaze shooting through my eyes. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand, but right now it was useless to me. I was like a fly caught in her web. Heavy sweat beaded all over my body. I could feel it dripping from my skin. But you won't, will you? Keiichi-kun? Rena finally released me from the cage of time after what felt like an eternity, but her question was missing something important, and it was incredibly vague. Once again, I swallowed hard, urging her on. Do what? What did she not want me to do? Transfer. It's fine. It's fine. Everybody calm down. Our friend is just very concerned that we are going to move away and not tell her. They both sides seem to have this strong suggestion that they're the real Rena. Big ol' thinky dink, huh? Satoshi and I had what? All well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life, as I am, he got a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing. And then one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who was able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my fur seal keychain. I stepped into the entryway just as I was about to take off my shoes. A chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear it, the sound of them blinking. Keiichi Maebara, there's no way you could hear that. My most base instincts were warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of his eerie figure standing behind me, as an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me, but I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. All right, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that it wouldn't have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. It's fine, see? Everything's not inverse world anymore. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. All the force in my body released from my lungs and through my throat, ceasing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body to look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free into a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. The emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand is drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep through the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of the amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed right into the wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard as it was bedded in, and I screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Keiichi remembers the basics of CQC. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there but not there, dispersed. All you gotta do is beat up your entryway in the cupboard with a ball bat if you feel weird coming home. And it's fine. Exactly, close quarter cuties. That's all it was. It was just a case of the close quarter cuties. Keiichi is just afraid of cooties. He is afraid of cooties from cuties. I think that would be that's a bit of a tongue twister there. When I was certain the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way had it only feigned retreat and was now inside my house. Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All of the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. Oh, really? Oh, man. Well, I mean, it is a good way to exert nervous energy. I mean, like, you're literally throwing your body into something. I think that would be, like, a pretty solid way to kind of disperse really, some bad energy. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room at the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all my idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon. And without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. When I asked who is it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was unclear. Either I'd been possessed by the supernatural phenomenon known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetuated by humans, that would mean admitting that it was Rena and the rest of them doing it. But that would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san very clearly declared the cases didn't exist. At the time, these words were pretty dependable, but as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oishi-san that this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse, there was no merit to doing that. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened in the doorway to myself. It'd be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still ever so slightly possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if that was really what happened? I would be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse, but if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Rena and the rest were perpetrators. If I said that Rena and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. By denying both of these, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist and I would still be bestest buddies with Rena and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. You ever just wish you were crazy? This clock has no hands. Bing dong, bing bong. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much, but since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. There's a phone right there, dude! Dude man has a phone right there in his room. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Keiichi, this is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds. But they refused since the individual packs were expensive. So instead I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger flavored ones I like. But my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Keiichi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Huh? Oh. What? Wait, what? What? Mom, Dad, you're complicating this. You're making this weirder. That was really abrupt. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It was quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you've heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all the time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good. Daddy is really sensitive about things like this, so if we leave things as they are, it'll affect his work. Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality. His emotions change as easily as the fall sky, so you could also say he couldn't take criticism. But something like that something like that can be done over the phone. Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about in person, so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. As their son, this was nothing more than I could say once they started talking about work. So, we'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least not while I knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off. Yeah. See you then, weirdo. Tomorrow morning. Make sure you're awake. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. And don't wipe your butt on the wall. Good Lord, Keiichi, I had to deal with that last time, and I will tell your little girlfriend next time. I swear to Christ. I will tell him that her boyfriend is a little a butt waller. He puts his butt on the wall and just kisses the wall with his bare butthole. They're probably going to be fine. It's fine. It's fine, everybody. There's nothing to worry about. Yeah, see you. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That was when my parents came back from work. I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back on a series of events in the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone, and that was their chance. First I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I similarly turned the lights on and some music. With this, from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry were still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. The garage. They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to the Okinomiya station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed to the back and closed the normally open garage door. It should be fine now, and it needed. And I needed to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since they left this afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. He's going to do like that thing on Home Alone. He's going to get some cardboard cutouts, put them on some toy trains, and let them roll around the house and shit. That'll be fine. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that from my little freak out was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a bit before Mom gets back and scolds me. I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern when you need them. Exactly. We might get that, though. There might be a Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern cameo coming up. Hello, this is the My Bar residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Maibara! Don't reveal that your parents are gone! You can follow up still. Calm down. Take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again, or they'll tell her to call when she comes back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. The call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with any telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That was good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick it up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing that I was the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other sounded goofy and lighthearted. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. This is Oishi from the Okinomiya bookstore. Oishi-san? Is that you, Maibara-san? Good evening. Good to hear you're doing well. Wait just a minute, please. Yeah. I do everything I can to avoid talking on phones. Cannot stand them. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was, since there was no one home. But I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Any change since then? Since when was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke to Oishi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital, and we headed into town for lunch and had a talk. Then after that, Rena and Neon came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may well be found out by them as well. Hello? Can you hear me, Maibara-san? Huh? Sorry, what did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There wasn't any answers, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that had happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but should I try asking? If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This night when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely at all. Well, Oishi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really? It could just be a coincidence, but the day I missed school when I was sick, the two of them came to check up on me. Which two? Rena and Neon. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole to thread string through. Not that, Maibara-san. The needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? That's right. That's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror, but the needle was a valuable piece of evidence. Let's see. I threw the mochi and the needle in the wall together. If it was there, then it would be in the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleaned the living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desk, pulling up the carpet, then flapping it around, but I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know what day they collected the burnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed into the kitchen, opened the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell it would be incredibly difficult to find a needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I'll try running my hand through it. It was a bit gross, but but I was looking for a needle. It's fine. It's fine. It's always okay to run your hand through trash looking for needles. It's a very healthy and safe thing to do. I felt a small prick. If I felt a small prick, I'll be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash with my hand. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oishi-san waiting too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. Then I dashed back up to the stairs where I had been keeping Oishi-san waiting for too long. Hello? How did it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed when it happened, and I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right, the needle wasn't the only incident I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Oishi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, the van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn! All the time I just flipped out yelling at him, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the plate number? I was so focused on just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry, I don't know much more than that it was a white van. Nothing to fret about, Maibara-san. Anyone can be shaken up after being hit. I guess all of this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Oishi-san had started to hem and haw over on the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Rena is acting strange. How so? When Rena said on the way home today, asking why it was so much like Satoshi-kun, how could I say it with confidence? That Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him simply disappearing. Rena knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Rena said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you? Transferring out, she said. Oh, someone is about to stream Remnants? Go ahead. Like, I'll be here. We're still going to be here for probably another 2.5 hours. Go ahead. Enjoy. You need to see people playing your very good game. In fact, everybody here, go play June Flowers' game Remnants. It is fantastic. June, feel free to link your game if you would like to. By all means, you're very much welcome to. Yes, please. It's a very good video game. I streamed it, but don't go watch that stream. Go play the game and then watch the stream. Transferring out. Rena said Satoshi transferred out. So given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Hey, there's no problem. It's always a pleasure. Like, I like this game a lot. I think it's fantastic. Everybody go play it. It's really good. Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Maibara-san, that was probably some sort of threat. Or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened until now as machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of being Rena and the others, I was left with Oishiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san. Except, Rena's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Oishiro-sama's curse being real or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all of the villagers, Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. Was he probably just downplay it when he said a little? Meaning he had actually dug up pretty deep, most likely? I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I could count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. It was a malicious person. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residences close to the Maibara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt so much resentment toward my father's artistic temperament and the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. I wondered if I should still be here by tomorrow morning, so I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea the next chance would come. Oishi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he was far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he'd ever felt. I wanted to ask about Rena, about what happened at her previous school. Actually, regarding Rena's... Yeah, I can actually, okay, I'm not the only one that was singing that in my head anytime that song came up. Okay, alright. I noticed the sound had been going on for quite a while now. Since I was focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery, and past my sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put into making it look like my parents were home. I needed to answer the door. Hello, Maibara-san. Sorry, someone seems to be at the door. I'm going to go see who it is. A guest. Oh, I see, my apologies. Should we end this phone call for now? That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine, I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down to the door. I needed to make up a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch that it was a lady who called up right before Oishi-san did. In which case, it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. I'll just say Mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. It would be the easiest option. Pizza delivery! Who wants some snacks? Let's go get some good food. It's about to be delicious time at the Maibara residence. It'd be harder to ask me to wake up my mom if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring in regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang a bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Oyashiro-sama? Here's a pamphlet. Keiichi is a demon snack? Could be. Depending on the Helltaker girl, I think I could be a demon snack as well. Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out the visor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I had prepared for this moment. I had tried to escape by imagining that it was the easiest person to deal with. One of my mom's friends. Good evening. Rena. There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence, but those unsettling words from Eon several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing this old man doesn't know. Door doesn't even have a peephole. Are you alone, Rena? Yeah? It seems that Eon wasn't with her, but that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here? Hey, Keiichi-kun, I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come in, I wonder? It was true that speaking through a chain door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate, but... At my house, the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it. Then it can't be helped, I guess. Rena looked at the ground sadly, but she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that the hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Rena enough to remove the chain and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Rena. Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get in the entranceway. Have you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun? No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home and was woken up by a phone and didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was going to have a cup of noodles in any case, I just didn't eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it? That's good. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes. Rena held out a stack of boxes wrapped in a cloth. If I could use your kitchen, I could heat up the miso soup and other stuff. It's fine, you don't need to do that. But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Keiichi-kun not like that type of stuff, I wonder? There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root, and potatoes. Dense and fibrous root vegetables. That miso soup looks incredible. I also brought rice, so if you microwave it, it'll be ready to eat in no time. Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup between ravenous bites. Oh yes, it's wonderful. It is to be born. How wonderful it is to be born Japanese. Also, I made more pickles. I made sensei pickles this time. Before I'd moved here to Inamazawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. These so-called supermarket vegetables taste rough and overpowering in comparison. If you had to describe them, they were vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert at such as myself, you first have to partake of sansai. There's common knowledge around here that Ryugu's family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious, no matter the kind of pickles they were. They'd go so well with that fluffy white rice, and also, but wait, there's more. So delicious. It just seems so delicious. Farewell to my unhealthy self, who said he'd make do with cup noodles. Rena appeared to be in good spirits as she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and my hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my weariness of Rena suddenly dwindled. Rena did say she was alone. I didn't have a problem letting her inside, though the possibility that it was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then, but the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. The happy Rena speaking of this charming dinner was dependent on one premise, and that premise was that tonight dinner hadn't been made at my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't there. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around that time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings of a meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Rena, did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also the chance that this was a bluff. I had turned the lights on and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were there. There was a chance that Rena was unsure if my parents were home, but I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. There were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Rena didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not, but there was no reason for me to confess that right now. I had to try holding on to that fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Rena wouldn't be able to do anything to me. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon. Huh? Is that so? I know you went through all the effort and everything, but, well, unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But some of this could work as side dishes, I think. I'm sorry, we have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few sides, so... Huh. You have side dishes? With a smile that bordered on cringe, I dodged her question apologetically, but the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. I spoke as if my mom was setting down dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Rena was saying. Rena was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of that as well. So Keiichi-kun can cook. What did you make, I wonder? No, well, it's not that Rena had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. Not so much that I'd made them, but rather my mom hadn't. Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun? It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. No, she's making them right now. So you see, I'm sorry I can't eat what you brought. Rena fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes. How about I try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be? It doesn't matter what I'm gonna eat. Let's see. The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Rena was firmly in control. It felt like I was being interrogated. Your dinner, I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water? Hey now, stop with the insults. I can't believe you'd belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out, full capacity already. It's that amazing. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grip my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Rena showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness. Keiichi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner? No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Rena had taken that assertion of mine, that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Rena became. Hey, Keiichi-kun. At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept from the gap in the doorway. Is your mom home? I wonder. I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Charade. I said charade. Oh, Jesus Christ. Can you believe I committed to reading a story that is well over a million words long, and I'm committed to this? Hey, Cleric, how's it going? Nice to see you again. I'm gonna say your full name, and if I get it wrong, please correct me. Cleric Cassius? I don't want to get that wrong, and I feel like just calling you Cleric might be weird. I don't know. Apologies if I got that wrong. Alright, Cassius it is. Fantastic. Okay. I didn't want to, I felt like me calling you just Cleric might seem a little weird, and I was just being, it was just me trying to avoid the fact, I was like, what if I say it wrong? But welcome. Things are getting interesting here in Higurashi land. It's been a very eventful and busy day for our boy, Keiichi Maibara. CC, Cleric. Okay, cool. Fantastic. You can call me Polly. Yeah, glad you're here. This is what we're hoping will be the exciting conclusion of the Onikakushi arc tonight. It's gonna be a real hit. Rena, she knew full well that my parents weren't home, but I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here, and we'd be having dinner soon, and that was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her she was there. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Rena's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid glare. Oh Lord, it's happening. Why? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but the facade was torn off the instant I looked into Rena's eyes. The look, it informed me of Rena's response faster than she could open her mouth. Oh God! Have you been lying to me? I wonder. Check that out. That's a real good CG right there. Why have you been lying to me? I wonder. I'm not lying. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! Rena's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Rena and I were still separated by what few inches slightly ajar but still chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I'd considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me. Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see. It's a CG art. They just kind of call them CG because they're not just like your typical sprite work where you just put the sprites on screen, but they do full images. So they just call them CGs. Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun? Let's see. I knew now that Rena had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had to come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she should be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Rena said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know? Cup noodles. That's right, isn't it? That I was going to eat. Wait, the cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it's the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing. I don't think you'll be full with just noodles. I think having rice and stuff will be definitely hit the spot. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. This was just a coincidence. Rena was still reading certain tells of mine. So the fact that she was still inferring what I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. If it was being read, then she's a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist. Do you like them? Do you mean noodles? No. Beep! What is she saying there? Rena indicated the point of my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand what Rena had spoken. Sorry, Rena, what did you just say? Huh? About what? Just now, you asked me if there was something that I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I had pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer, that was why I was able to comprehend it. Pork bone and ginger flavor. I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort slowly, a swirling counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. It was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Rena know even this? Not even caring as I mashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Rena. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that? Why, I wonder. Quite strange, isn't it? Isn't it? How could you dodge a question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How do you know? Why do you know? Answer me! You brought them at 7th Mart, didn't you? A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering it up with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that? I was behind you, following you the whole time. What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time. That's because Rena was right behind Keiichi-kun's back the whole time. She's laughing now. Like that night? The night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with Oishi-san, I didn't even sense her being there. Standing behind the door, behind me, standing there, just like that. When Keiichi was picking out the noodles, I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many different flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you were going to pick the expensive ones, then you should just pick one type, she said. Then Keiichi-kun picked out the big box of pork bone and ginger flavor that he loved so much, didn't he? I like it too, pork bone noodles, but I can never eat a whole big bowl myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling in non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then I could understand what Rena was saying as she stretched out, and started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, eyes closed, and didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards, and as I withdrew, Rena advanced. So, Keiichi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together. I'm sure it's going to be delicious, so, okay? Rena's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door, one at a time, as they had mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she had unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Rena didn't do that. She's simply imploring me to remove the chain. I tried my hardest to light the fuse of the powder keg in my heart, trying again and again. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Please go away. I beg you, please go away. How could you say something so mean? I wonder. Please go away. Go away. Go away. The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering, it just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Rena momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands and planted my feet firmly and pulled with all my might. But with the slamming sound that slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing, and the source of that was Rena's fingers. Each one of those fingers wiggling, squirming around like tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. It hurts, Keiichi-kun, it hurts! It wasn't a harsh shriek, it was more of a yelp as she was trying to keep back. No, go away, go away, go away! I kept pulling on the door with all of my might. I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen my pull on the door, at least momentarily, Rena wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that's why the door wasn't closing. It really hurts, Keiichi-kun. I'm sorry if I was messing around too much. I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. It didn't change anything. It hurts. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away. Rena couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I had trapped her fingers. Rena's white fingers had become deep red while they were no longer squirming. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Rena's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away. Go away. Go away. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Rena's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly and I could hear the thud of Rena falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. It made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Lena. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun, I'm sorry. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Rena leaned against the door, apologizing profusely and nothing else. After confirming what I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Rena echoing her apology. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Those pitiful words, they would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. But that wasn't out of any sort of malice. I just felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Rena. Does Rena need her fingers? She might. Those are probably useful in for daily activities, I would imagine. Before Mion had threatened me in this doorway, saying that there was nothing she didn't know, and just now at the same place, Rena told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents weren't home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Rena as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Rena repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the sound of the feel of the lump I felt. It was something on my bed? It was the phone, you dingus. It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since we went downstairs. Could it be that my clock ran out of batteries? I had talked to Rena for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock, it was ticking forward 1 second, every second as usual. There ain't no hands on that clock. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear at the time, which felt frozen, began moving once again. Hello, Oishi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oishi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was. Rena came just now. Did she come to play? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san, but I didn't need to right now. Right now, I needed to know about Rena. That's right, I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Rena, but Rena's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false? I couldn't tell. She came to play, of course. The one thing I knew was the single grim reality that Rena was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Oishi-san about her. Up until now, I had regretted whenever I'd forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather, I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this that I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Regarding Rena Ryugu-san, I did a bit of digging. It wasn't much. I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't know you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though. Oishi-san. I spoke calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue, and then I said it. I think Rena Ryugu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents from Oyashiro-sama's curse, Rena Ryugu is involved. Do you have some sort of proof that makes you believe Rena-san is suspicious? The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do I have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell from over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Putting on the fishing line, he was when he felt a bite, only to reel the bait, disappointed but ready to cast the line once more. That's how it seemed. Oishi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine. It's fine, Maibara-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit assuring. Oishi-san was using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That's all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Oishi-san went silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please, tell me. Tell me about Rena. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Rena called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maibara-san, please, calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bat Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then, I at least wanted to know about what happened before Rena transferred schools. You're aware this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there is nothing that I'll find uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true. I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of the deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Rena Ryugu has never been linked to any of these investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Rena done by the police, and is a personal inquiry. Is that what you're telling me? This will make things a lot quicker, since you understand. All of this is from either phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take all of this with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of this is just what you... Okay. All of it is just from what you've heard. Yes, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing. Before you said you saw Rena's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too? Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. We all know cops are corrupt and shitty. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Neither do cops. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire, after all. Please tell me, Oishi-san. Understood. Oishi-san finally opened the tight lips of his. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to the Ibaraki prefecture just before starting elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided in the doctor. It was Oyashiro-sama. That was everything I knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maebara-san. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident right before she transferred back to Hinamizawa. The incident Rena was responsible for. And what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Rena and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So they're the ones after all. No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these peculiar words were less than reassuring. Then, who did you expect? That it was Oyashiro-sama. Huh? That Oyashiro-sama's curse really exists. I skipped text really fast there. Yeah, right, well, ha 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 ha. I'm just being a dumb cop and making it funny. Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Oishi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, the course of events leading him to delve into Rena's past. Just then there was thunder in the distance, a heavy rain pouring down. It came without warning, a downpour fiercely beating the ground. I left the window in my room open a crack and to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly. What is it? Nothing. It suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry. Please continue. I got up a while, still on the phone, and grasped the window. I said at the beginning that it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk, regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly that it had permanent damage. It could have been the school or possibly some individual with whom arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maebara-san, can you hear me? Yep, this is important. There was a figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, driplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling to her side. In one hand was a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth, her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. It was as if she was... What would she be eating over there? How could it be at this time? How could it be that at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something, she was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? Why was I right up against the window, fixated on her? Hello? Maebara-san, can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. Huh? Maebara-san. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hello? Maebara-san. What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. Oh. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily in my right hand, blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Damn it. Why should I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. 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 Won't forgive. I won't forgive. My Barazan, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? We got ourselves a couple more tips. We've got a split personality, and at the 7th mark, we're going to have a look at those, and then we are going to take a break. So first, it is tip time. Tip time. Split personality. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it is believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape? That's difficult to say. There are some who agree that, and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon, something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Yo, dude, split personalities are rad, yo! Recent studies find that those who develop it, or rather those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have had abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials! Yeah, that's not what I was expecting to happen there. Fucking video game, I swear to Christ. Steam, what are you bitching at? Alright, Steam was bitching at me. Alright, at the 7th Mart. The 7th Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. What's this, Keiichi? So many? There's no reason to get all different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently that there are a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in one big case, it's cheaper, Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Now that Dad had thrown his hat into the ring, I'd have to compromise. I don't get to only eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I'd already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the cases of noodles for what I want. Pork bone and ginger, large cup. Hey Keiichi, can't you get more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. So when I plonked a large box of pork bone flavor in the shopping cart, Mom looked back at me with an expression as if to say, "These? What are those?" To show her this was my last compromise, I began explaining the choice. Pork bone is good. You get a large serving, but the flavor isn't too strong. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. Oh my god. In this frozen memory in time, the encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation, searching, but of course I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying on me from a blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they pleased. There was nobody looking over this way, and no one trying to get behind me. Not here, couldn't be here, probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even if I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. When I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine, there was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror like any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would definitely have turned it around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around to the store, searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodles section, bad-mouthing my mom, but there was a presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now, after the fact, was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps, other than mine, going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, tip-tap, tip-tap. This is a tap troop from Rhythm Heaven Fever. Pit-pat, tip-pat, tip. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, bomb, 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 tap, tap, tap. Okay! Ready! Bomb, 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 tap, tap, tap. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot steps going pit-pat were right behind me. Me running around gleefully in the closed-off moment of time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I heard anything. That's why I couldn't turn around. That's why I didn't turn around. This is why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run faster than I had to run at the time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That's why it made no sound. That was all. At the time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking to my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark, a sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light, except my body couldn't move, as if I was sewn into that moment in time. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now that's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again, and the hair on the back of my neck picked up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move like it was the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck into every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. Roar! I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? Just as a person's mouth might bite into an apple, slurp the juices, and finally discover that it was an apple, my mind began to process the scene before my eyes by eating the apple. Munch, munch, chew, chew, nom, nom. Slurp the juices and discover the apple. Meaning, what was in front of me was... It sounded like absolute hell. Oh Lord, absolute hell swallowed us. Alright. We are going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. Exactly, that sounded like apples. We're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break and then we're going to decide what we're going to do. I don't know what we're doing yet. I don't know if we're continuing or if we're just going to call it. So I'll decide when I get back. Boom. That was like 2 hours for one chapter. That was a bit. That was a bit. It was a bit. So we'll be back, and then we'll know what we're doing afterward. All right? Okay. Get up, do some stretching, do what you need to. Then we will reconvene. That is a moon pie. You're not wrong. All right. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I did some looking at the script files, and I did some judging based on the number of lines that the script that we just read for the current chapter was. And looking at the chapters that remain, that'll give us enough for one more stream tomorrow night, plus the omake stuff at the end. So I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to call it here. And we're going to go ahead and wrap tomorrow night. I'm feeling a little out of it, and I don't want to push it. So that'll still give us enough for another good 2 to 3 hour stream tomorrow to actually finish this off. So I think that's what we're going to do. Don't really think we should push it if there's no real point in doing it. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's been a pleasure. Hope you are enjoying. I hope you will be... I hope you are not too disappointed that we aren't wrapping tonight. I thought that we might, but then the length of this chapter in and of itself caught me off guard. I knew that this was a big one, but I didn't think it was this big. And like tackling this on top of what I know is coming next, and I know that it is about as long, if not longer.
I think that would be better to try and tackle that, and I would have more energy. Yeah, to kind of, like, I don't want to end it sounding like, oh god, I'm so tired of reading. Basically is where I'm at. So, let us see who's doing the stream thing. And we will kick you on over there. Who be streaming? Who be streaming? Oh, hey, after 5, he's revisiting Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That is a good video game that I know that people like. So I'm going to send y'all on over to my pal After 5. Thanks again for coming out. We will convene here once again tomorrow night for hopefully the conclusion of Onikakushi. Thanks again for coming out. Love y'all. Take it easy. Have a nice rest of your evening. Say hello to After 5 for me.